Today we are going to talk about the data science project lifecycle. Now, before we dive into discussing the 5 steps, the way I defined the lifecycle, I wanted to quickly touch on who needs to have a good understanding of the lifecycle and why. So obviously the data science managers, because they're the ones who are in charge of managing the data science machine learning projects from start to finish. So obviously they need to have a good understanding of the life cycle. The machine learning engineers. So many times what happens out in the real world, the machine learning engineers come in and they immediately dive deeper into the technical aspect of the project. For example, looking into the different types of models, selecting the necessary models, training and deploying them. What I'm proposing here is for them to have a clear understanding of the entire life cycle. Is going to be beneficial. It's a win-win because they're going to have the clear vision of what is being accomplished at the end of the day by executing the project. So definitely the machine learning engineers, as well anyone wanting to make the transition into the field of artificial intelligence and data science. I'd suggest that before they dive into learning about different types of models, it is a good idea to have a good understanding of the life cycle itself from start to finish. So that's what I'm proposing here. Take a step back and have a clear understanding of the steps, the 5 steps in this case that I'm going to propose in just a minute. Now, one note, there are variations to this life cycle. So if you go and search over the internet, if you Google, you'll probably come across many different types of life cycles and diagrams, some with 7 steps, others maybe even with more. What I tried to do here, I tried to research a little bit and simplify the cycle so it's easier for everyone to follow that. So that's what I'm trying to do here with my 5 steps, proposed 5 steps. All right, so let's look into the 5 steps at a higher level. Step 1 is the business understanding. So we are going to go through the details in just a moment for each one of these steps. I just wanted to show the different steps as I define them. Step 2 is data extraction and exploration. Step 3, data modeling and selection. Step 4, model the deployment of the model. And step 5 is the visualization of the data. So those are the 5 steps. Now let's look at the cycle. So this is how it looks. We're just going to go through briefly in each and every single one of the steps. So the first step is a business understanding. What are some of the tasks that you need to initiate in this step? You may be identifying the pain points for clients or users. If you have a client who already has an existing user base, you may be able to identify some of the pain points, some of the issues that they're having to deal with. So that could be something maybe you can alleviate with the deployment of a machine learning model. It could be identifying any opportunities, any potentials to improve the processes. For example, automation. So you may be able to do some automation to improve some processes. So once you have gone through some of that, you can go through the brainstorming sessions. So you may be sitting down with the subject matter experts, or you may be sitting down with your client or the stakeholders to decide to do some ideation and take those ideations, bring them back into the next task, which is to determine the types of models that you can use and you can implement to either alleviate the pain points or to exploit the opportunities. So once you've gone through some of these tasks, now it's time for you to formalize it. And that's where you're going to look at creating the use case. How do you do that? There are templates. If you were to search over the internet, there are many different types of templates that you can pick and choose from. And they're fairly straightforward for you to follow. And what you're doing with those templates, you're bringing them back and you're documenting all of the work that you have done so far. So you're just formalizing the process here. Along with it, you're also deciding on the key performance indicators. So sitting down with your client, deciding what are the measures so that your client knows, you know, that the deployment is actually ultimately bringing some benefits back to the client. So those are the key KPIs, key performance indicators. So you're going to define them here as well. Now, once you have gone through that first step, now you're ready to transition into more of the technical aspect of the machine learning engineering project. So here, the step 2 is saying data extraction and exploration. So you're ready to mine the data. So depending on the size of your client, if they're mid to large size organization, they may have a big data. They may have a large database that you can extract the data from. Or if it's a smaller organization or a startup, they may not have enough data that you can potentially utilize for your models. So what you're having to do in that case is to go beyond and maybe look at the industry within the space of your client and see if you can scrape some data and utilize that data to train and deploy your model. So that's what you're doing when you're doing the mining. And then once you have extracted the data, it's a good idea to scan the data to get an overall picture of the type of data that you have brought back. Once you have done that, you can do the pre-processing of the data. So here we are talking about data cleansing. For example, if there is any missing data, you may be imputing the data, or if there are any categorical data, you may be applying one-hot encoding to transition them into numbers so they are in the same level as with the other features or other attributes. Or you may be you're also doing here the splitting between test and training data that you're going to take back to train your model and test the model with. So you're doing that. You may also be doing feature scaling. So they're all in the same scale for your machine learning model to easily understand the data. So you're doing all of the cleansing. Once you have done that, now you can do further exploration of the data. So you can do some more visualization for your own benefits, do some EDAs. So once you have done that, now you're ready to get into step 3, which is to do the data modeling and ultimately selecting the models. What are some of the tasks? Obviously, now that you have a clean set of data, you're going to bring it back and you're going to train your model or models with that data. So once you have trained the model, you're going to run that trained model against the test data. You're also running the trained model against maybe the unknown or new data. So once you have run the trained model, now it's time for you to evaluate the performance of the selected models or the models that you're experimenting with. So there are many different types of evaluation metrics that are out there when it comes to machine learning model training and deployment. Depending on the type of model that you're having to experiment with, you can pick and choose from those. What that does, it tells you the performance of the model that you're experimenting with. So if the model performance are not as expected, you can go through the exercise of optimizing the models. So here we are talking about the hyperparameter optimization. So you can do that. You can do some feature reengineering, ultimately to fine-tune your model. So once you have done all of this, now you're ready to select the model or models that you're going to bring back and deploy into your production environment. So that's going to take us back to step 4, which is to deploy the model. So you're deploying the model or models in the selected or the production environment here. And then what I'm proposing here, you also have to monitor the model's performance in the production environment. So similar to any other production environment, you just don't simply deploy the models and let them do their work. You also have to be on top of them, so you have to monitor them actively to make sure that they're performing as expected. So that's what you're doing here. Next step, and the final step, is to visualize the data. So once you have deployed the models into the production environment, you potentially have to experiment with some business intelligence solutions to visualize the results that are being given by the deployed models. And here you may be relying on Power BI or Tableau or any other custom solution, business intelligence solution, to generate some reports or diagrams. So you can visualize the insights and you can share that with your client, who, by the way, may not be familiar with data science at all. And it's an easier way for you to share some of the results that are being given by your deployed models. So yes, you're generating some insights. And how is that insight useful for the client? That's going to drive their business decisions ultimately. So that's the whole idea behind doing this project, right? So you're going to bring in and hopefully add in some value for the client. So these generated insights will help them, will guide them to make their business decisions moving forward. Last but not least, you're also ready at this point to start measuring some of the benefits against the KPIs that you have defined, the key performance indicators that you have defined. So it could be values generated or insights generated. It could be return on investment that you have defined previously in the first step, or it could be monetization. So customer retention. So there are so many different options here for KPIs that you can pick and choose from depending on the nature of your project and your client's industry and what you're trying to accomplish here. So you have to do that KPI measurements. So that's the 5 steps, the way I define them through my data science project lifecycle. I know that there are other variations. So I do thank you for watching this video. And as always, please feel free to subscribe, like, or comment, because this is an evolving area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I'm sure that there are many other ideas and thoughts, and I'll be more than happy to listen to your comments. So feel free to share your comments as well. Thank you.